Welcome to Business the Shamanic Way Conversations. I'm your host, Whitney Mullings, a soul brand shaman. You will hear from shamans in business and how they create profitable businesses with flow, ease, and grace. Maybe you could do the same, incorporate spirituality into your brand and message, and a fuller expression of who you are, unfiltered. Your journey to have it all in both life and business starts now. Thank you for being here, Sarah. I'm so excited that you said yes, and it's such an honor to have you joining me today.
Oh, thanks, Whitney. I'm really happy to be here. I love chatting to you.
Sarah is the more modern day shaman, and she's not only my dear mentor for years, it's been a few years, but she is also the mentor to many other magical priestesses, shamans, you name it. If I could ask you to give a bit of an introduction on what you do in business.
So I suppose I have an alternative view around business, and this comes from the shamanic philosophy of experiencing life through your own lens, and understanding that you're connected to everything and everybody. So my way of looking at business is how you can express your truth, who you are, through it. Whether that's in corporate world or entrepreneurial world, it doesn't matter. I have experience of working with both, and it's actually the same thing, even though we kind of compartmentalize them. And exploring business and finding success through business, in my way, means that you have to have that feeling in your being. You have to understand that your success just by being alive, because it's pretty special and spectacular that each of us is so individual and has a message to share. So my way of exploring and expanding business is to start there, and then to see what we can become, what can we make from this? What can we add to the earth? What can we impact? And it's not all about doing or being busy. Now, I'm seeing this around the internet quite a lot. Self-care is paramount and we can't be all too busy. But even that in itself is kind of very ego run. If you have to make time for self-care, you're still in your ego.
Yeah.
Got to just invest in the fact that you're this beautiful experience and be it, rather than make time to feel good in it, And if you are just running a business for the money, at some point you're going to fail. Business must have a purpose, and that purpose has to come from you. And when it does, and when it's aligned, well, money comes to you, because money is an expression of the universal love that we all live within. And it lands when you are vibrating at your finest frequency, expressing your truth and really having fun with it. So quite an alternative way.
And I've experienced it firsthand.
Yeah.
And it's literally life-changing. And that was so beautifully put, Sarah. And I think that would be the bigger lesson that you have taught me, is to embrace the success that you already are. Otherwise, like, that's how I was before I met you. I was keep on hitting the wall and thinking, like, why this isn't working? Why isn't the money coming?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, guys, if the money isn't coming, something's out of alignment. Something's not right. And it will be you. Something in you will be off. It won't be that you don't know how to do marketing. It won't be that you don't know how to do sales, although all of those things are valid to learn. But you must address your inner world at the same time. You must have a look at what are the underlying subconscious currents around money and why you think it's not coming. Is it because you don't know enough?
Oh my gosh, isn't that so true? And if I'm totally honest, I still run back into that.
Yeah.
like again and again, and it's reinventing, because there is that cycle and the expansion to different levels. How would you describe that in the shamanic way to overcome it again and again and again?
That's a really interesting point. You know, if we just chunk it right back, every single breath you take, you're reinventing yourself. You breathe in life and you let it go. This is a reinvention, but it's just there. It happens and it's part of your life and you don't think about it. Every time you wake up in the morning, you wake up with fresh eyes. You have reinvented yourself because you can never be the person you were yesterday. It just happens. So in business, who are you going to want to be in order to, I don't know, have an impact to lots of people, share your message with a lot of people? You've got to be confident, and you've got to be clear, and you've got to be able to let go of the past, even if it was just yesterday or last morning, this morning, you know? And that experience of letting go of who you are now so that you can receive who you are designing yourself to be happens kind of mechanically in business, in what we're calling the shamanic way here, in that you look to your potential. What is it that you want to design? And go bigger than you think you can. Get to the point that it scares you. Get to the point where you question and say, is that for me? Who am I to think I can do that? Well, darling, you are exactly the right person to think that you can do that. If you can think of it, it's searching for you already. And then ask yourself the question, what do I need to discover about myself? What do I need to let go about myself? What behavior do I need is unhelpful in order for me to make space in my energetic environment so that I can receive that idea? And if you continually spiral, you've used that word already, Whitney, around in this way to the potential and then back into yourself and then to letting go of what's not helping, you will find that you expand and integrate. And the integration part of business is what people mostly find very difficult. The integration part can feel like contraction or as though you're failing, but it isn't. It is, in fact, the place where you embody change.
You know, it's always good. I don't know how you do it, but that this is what makes you so amazing in my eyes, is whenever we chat, whenever you answer any of my questions, I'm just mind blown all the time, like every time.
I'm channeling information. So this is the shamanic way, is I'm trusting the wisdom that comes through me and I'm allowing myself to speak it. Now, these subjects are not new to us, are they, Whitney? But I'm pretty sure that what I'm speaking about sounds new. That's because it's a different energetic vibration, because I'm not the same person I was the last time we talked about this. I've evolved. You've evolved.
Yes. And that's why it always hits. It
Yeah,
just
it's hard.
hits.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I just love
it. Thank you.
So this is what I really, really, really want to ask you. And I think everybody is going to love me for asking this.
Oh, God.
Now, and I think you touched on that because in your book, and oh, by the way, for anybody who's not aware, Sarah has a book, and I'm going to include the link. It is such an awesome read, and it's such an amazing book. But in the book, you've talked about your mentor, Eve, who helped you remember the shaman that you are. And at what point do you actually fully embrace the shaman that you are? Because she had told you that you are before you were even aware of it, and you started to study under her, apprentice with her. But then at what point did you fully come to now today trusting, you know, the what you channel?
Wow, that's a big question. So I think that I have always been shaman. I'm British, shaman.
Shaman.
I came this way, but, and as you're born, obviously, all your spiritual knowledge tends to dissipate. And my family didn't accept what I was telling them I could see or know or do. So I hid it, but it didn't mean it went. It just meant it was hidden. And then in my book, Modern Day Shaman, I'm explaining my journey through the decision I made when I was about 30 to explore myself, because, you know, there was all these things happening, and the common denominator was me. And in deciding to explore myself, my teacher arrived within 3 weeks, you know, randomly, except there is no random. And although she told me, the first day I met her, she told me this, she channeled this piece, which is in the book, in a very strange voice, that gave me goosebumps and made me cry for days. But there was a recognition that she was telling me some truth. And I was awestruck and a little bit feeling an imposter syndrome. How can that be? I live in the modern world. People are going to say that I've appropriated this, etc., etc. But when I did the research into it and actually looked at the history, shamanism was a global phenomenon 30, 50,000 years ago, and they have archaeological and ethnological proof of this. And what happened was that as we've grown in cultures and become modern, the shamanic cultures were wiped out by invading forces. And it's only a very small number of them that are left on the world. But that doesn't mean the energy has to dissipate. And I believe that the shamanic way of living is very relevant in our modern world. And my intention, and I think I've put that in through the book, is to use this ancient philosophy, this ancient art, and make it so that we can find our way back to ourselves, which is what the book is about, my way back to me, and my way back to my shame, my accepting and acknowledging my shame. And so that's a bit of a long-winded answer to your question, Whitney. But I suppose the day that I fully accepted, confidently, fully accepted, was a day when I was speaking on stage. And I held about 150 people in a shamanic journey. And one lady had an egoic death. She lost herself and became hysterical. And I got off the stage and I went and did my stuff with her. And she came back, and everybody of the 3 days through the event was talking about this experience, because they had noticed this lady before the work we did. It was only an hour. I was only speaking for an hour, and the journey I took everyone on was 10 minutes. And the person that she was before the shamanic journey that I held was very different, clearly different to the person that she showed up as afterwards. Now, she did have to go to sleep. She had, as I say, an episode, I call it an egoic death, and she became hysterical and cried and all of this sort of stuff. We calmed her down. She went to bed. But the next day, there was a light in her eyes and a real shift and change. And she came away from feeling and being the outsider, and as though no one accepted her, to finding her tribe, finding her people. And although I'd been working shamanically all that time, and I called myself Modern Day Shaman, it was on that day where I actually thought, wow, Sarah, that's something. And that's something to share, and that's something to own. And it was witnessed by 150 other people, which I think made it easier for me to go, aha, that's me, you know?
And I'm just so blown away because this is also after having working with you under apprentice with you. And of course, I've experienced those profound changes in myself. And like you say, I want to talk about business all the time. And you always not let me go. And you're like, well, what's going on here, Whitney?
Yeah.
In everything of life. And then of course, when I trust you wholeheartedly when I listen, and then something shifts in business. So to me, you already hold that space, you already hold that energy, like you've already practiced for so long. And to hear it, in this light that really happened and solidify that, and embracing the shaman you are today from that experience, it totally put a different light. And it's such a beautiful share in the work that you do, either executives or entrepreneurs. Like it's pretty much the same in finding yourself today and finding your truth. And you talked about adopting this ancient wisdom of shamanism today's world. Like what would be a common thread that you notice between the two?
Well, let's bring in the idea of corporate and entrepreneurial. I mean, in entrepreneurial, individuals have to actually own their own purpose. They have to own their own ideas. And it's easier, I think, for entrepreneurs to say, well, this is me. But it's also harder, because in that, this is me and this is my truth and this is my expression, they've actually got to do quite a lot of work on being able to trust themselves. In corporate, I've worked quite extensively with directors in Microsoft, and they tend to fall into under the umbrella of the big corporation, but then they can feel victim to it and find that their impact is tempered, is kind of made smaller. They're all very driven. They all have a real idea of wanting to make the world a better place, yet fall into, well, I've got to stay within these parameters. And my question to both people are, well, why have you got to do anything other than find your purpose, find your truth, and make sure that you express it compassionately through the avenues and the channels that you're working in? And when we chunk everything right the way down to that simple truth, whether you're in corporate, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're working, I don't know, in a private business somewhere for somebody, it's all the same. And learning to communicate your truth effectively, compassionately, is the key. Because we don't get taught.
As you're explaining that, what's coming to mind is like, I have over a decade experience in corporate before entrepreneurship. And, now that you put it in that way, the proving energy, it's what often is led with. That's what I find in my experience.
Yeah.
So
in corporate, you mean?
In both, actually.
In corporate, you've got to prove that you have value and you're busy.
Yeah.
Which means that innovation sometimes can get dull. In entrepreneur world, you've got to kind of, you find yourself measuring your value by how much money you make. And that's not it. It's your impact. And you do not know the impact you're making.
And that is so good that when you tell them what is your truth is seriously where the focus will pull you away from either or situation.
Yeah. I mean, I have a client at the moment who is a very successful entrepreneur, multiple 7 figures. And she still finds herself in the downward spiral of crisis and drama and falls into victim energy whenever something doesn't quite go the way she expects it to. But expectation closes down possibility, and expectation can really stop growth because it's ego driven. It means that you need to control and you need to prove. Whereas, what about if you were open to the fact that, okay, well, this has happened and it's pretty amazing. Okay, it's not what you wanted, but it's pretty amazing. Where is it going to take us? What can you see now? Is it different? And it always is. But it's funny because we have the very big high and then we tend to spiral into angst, surrender to that, and then something breaks open and off we go again. And it's very interesting. That's a very catalytic process, but I see it with everybody in varying degrees.
Yeah, I could recall many of that.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I'm not perfect. Hands up.
So before I do let you go, what will be one tip that you'll leave with our viewers today? Because that will be the key to manifestation. Surrendering and keeping curious and excited and not so tied to the expectation.
One tip is difficult. Can I have a few?
Yes, please.
Well, the first thing would be to, when you do set something in your energy that you would like to achieve, you must surrender to the idea that if because you think of it, it is therefore available to you. Number one, you got to trust that. Number two, you don't know how that is going to come to you because you are a mere human. You are not every single energetic vibration or frequency, although you are, but we won't go into that now. So allow yourself to be humble in the fact that you don't know how that's going to land for you. But you do know that you can show up every single day as a new iteration of yourself, because every morning you're different. And that showing up will be with the idea that you are going to receive everything that's available to you in your best way, in your best self. Now, while you're doing that, number 4, you need to pay attention to your inner world, to what's going on inside of you. What are you saying to yourself? Notice your behavior. Notice the people that you have around you. Notice the actions that you take. Are they in alignment with this idea that you have for your life? If they're not, you're going to have to let go of them. And surrender to the process of growth, which means that something has to die in order for you to be reborn.
I used to think that you can do this yourself, but I'm going to say it right out. It's hard. And I don't think you can, like, to dive deep into your inner world. Because if everyone can do that, everybody would be a billionaire today.
Well, they would be. And, you can't, well, you can dance on your own, but it doesn't feel so good, does it? If you're dancing with a partner, there's shape and focus and a lot of shared joy. And that's the same. Shamanic work is a partnership. You know this, Whitney. Whenever I work with somebody, I invest in them with my own energy. And my energy grows and shifts and changes. And we become this real wonderful container for growth. And we witness the falling down, and the falling down is good. There's nothing wrong with it. All this idea that we've got to overcome challenge and not worry about our emotions, I don't hold with that. We have to live as human people. We are human. Yeah. We're more than that, but we are human first, and we have to experience everything. And not experiencing emotion means that we get it stuck so that it becomes amplified, and then it hurts when we do look at it,
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Sarah. There are so many golden nuggets in this short share. So can you share a little bit with who's listening that wants to get in touch with you? How can they do that?
Oh, well, first of all, Whitney, thank you for being so generous with your questions. They were great questions. And anyone that resonates with anything I've said or would like to explore it, the shamanic way of working with business a little bit more, you can find me at SarahNegus.com, www.sarahnegus.com, or you can email me at sarah@sarahnegus.com, if I said that right. And at the moment, I have 2 mentoring spaces in my schedule, which are available, which are like 3 to 4 month programs of private one-on-one work, where we would explore potential inner world, business, every aspect of life, really.
And it's going to change your life.
Seriously, yeah. I mean, every single time. And I'm always so honored to work with people. And as you know, my clients stay with me a long time. Not because they don't grow, but because we grow together. And therefore, there's always more to explore. And without wanting to sound egotistical here, I'm a very good anchor.
Oh, no, that's not egotistical at all. Because you are, like, everything just
settles.
Yeah. And the energy that you hold, how should I word it? It can't be described in one word. It just kind of gets you going for the while.
Yeah. I hope it's inspirational, aspirational,
Yes.
while being able to hold the stuff that you've got to go through in order to hold on to those aspirations and make them real.
So like I said earlier, I don't believe it anymore to do it alone. And there's no need. And to have Sarah in your corner, it's anybody has questions, you can just ask me. I can't see.
You're such a wonderful advocate for me. I do appreciate you. That's so lovely. And it's been an honor to know you for 4 years now.
Oh my gosh, has it been
yeah,
4?
I think it's 4 years now.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. I can't speak more highly of Sarah's work, other than that it's life-changing, and it really does evolve, and you really walk your talk.
Yeah. Look at you, Whitney. I mean, you've made amazing changes, and I know that you impact the lives of very many people, and that's what my work is about, is to empower and facilitate that. It's a ripple, isn't it? This ripple effect that we all have, and it's so lovely.
Thank you again, Sarah.
That's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.